Hello and welcome everyone to the virtual webinar Driving Innovation and Growth in Online Retail Lessons and Insights from the Soul Store, organized by Indian retailer and Alavi. Today's discussion will revolve around how brands are driving innovation and growth in online retail and fashion. My name is Preetima Bhardwaj, Project Head Webinars at IndianRetailer.com and the organizer for the webinar today. The agenda to be discussed during the session today is what sets the Soul Store apart from other brands, what innovation and growth means to the Soul Store, and how the company is driving innovation and growth internally to be successful, how the brand uses technology to enable innovation and growth in the fashion and retail industry, how to deal with rapid changes in the marketplace, both online and offline. The discussion today will go on for 30 minutes. This will be followed by a Q&A session for the next 10 to 15 minutes. If you have any questions during the course of discussion, you can post them through the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen. We will take up questions post the discussion. Please participate in the poll during the webinar. We would also like to request the attendees to keep the question within the scope of discussion here today. I would now like to pass the stage to Anishka, Head of Marketing Alavi.ai, for the opening remarks. Over to you, Anishka.
Thank you very much, Preetima, for that wonderful introduction. Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm delighted to be moderating this session because in this webinar, we will be exploring the world of online fashion, which is an industry that is changing so quickly that it's quite difficult to keep up with the pace of change. The topic today that we will be discussing is innovation and growth with one of the co-founders of the Soul Store, which is a popular brand that is driving and shaping this change that we're seeing in India and across the world. So welcome, Vedang from the Soul Store. It's great to have an opportunity to discuss with you some of the ideas and details behind your brand's online success. Your brand is really changing e-commerce and the fashion space in India, and we can't wait to hear more about your experiences. Therefore, to start our discussion, would it be possible for you to tell us a little bit about the brand and what sets the Soul Store apart from other online retailers in India?
So thanks for that introduction. I'm quite excited to be here and share my story. Yes, I would love to tell you guys a little about the brand and what sets us apart. I think if I have to say it in one line, the Soul Store is a one-stop destination for all things youth and pop culture. That's what we want to create. I think what's missing in our country is, yes, we have a lot of options to buy apparel and a lot of destinations, but none of them are very relatable to the youth. None of them are likable to some extent, very corporate facing. That's something that we always wanted to change because the whole aim was to make this a fun place, not just for the customer, but even for us. Because I think if you truly enjoy what you do, it's going to come out in your work. So we're a very light-hearted, fun brand. We have the official merchandisers for over 150 characters. So whether you want your superhero or your Harry Potter or even your IPL team merchandise, we are the right place to go. So essentially, we've built out this one umbrella of all things that are relevant to the youth today in terms of apparel and lifestyle. That's actually what sets us apart. That's a unique proposition that we bring in. And I think as long as we continue to have that key differentiator, we would stand out very much in the market.
Just to build on what you have mentioned about being this relatable brand to the modern consumer and to the young consumer, and just to set the context further for today's discussion, could you explain to us what innovation and growth means to the Soul Store? And what does it mean, particularly in the context of fashion and retail, especially in today's pandemic crisis environment?
So I think innovation and growth has to happen on two fronts. At any D2C, direct to consumer brand has basically two aspects to it. One is what is the front facing, what does the consumer see? And the second is how do you back it up with your systems and your back end and operations at the end of it. You have to be strong and innovative in both to be competitive in today's world. If I have to say from the consumer point of view, it is so important to make sure that it's a fast changing world, right? So it's so important to make sure that You're there at the right time with the right products, with the right designs. You're marketing it in the right way. I'll give you an example. When we first saw the kind of Harry Potter products, even there, forget in India, in the world, they were terrible. Like everything was you were like a human billboard of like the fandom, and that's not what fans want to be, right? Fans want to be fans, but they also want to look good being fans. And that's something that we were very confident of, that okay, there's a lot of opportunity of doing good work here. So making the right products was step one, because if you have the right products, then you can do the right marketing. It's very tough to market a product which isn't correct. Then it's about marketing it in the correct way, right? So how does the brand speak? What do you do in the startup world? And there's so much pressure to grow with at a hyper rate. So what mistake a lot of people do is they start to deep discount when there's these, and consumers that come with this deep discount necessarily don't uh, then buy at the full price. Like when's the next time you will buy on some of these discount websites, right? You'll wait for that discount or the sale. That's something that we made sure never happens, because eventually I think pricing is also a form of your branding, and we wanted to stand for good quality, good fit. But yes, you're gonna have to also pay for that slight aspirational value we add to the brand. Um, that's on the consumer side of things. But I think our main innovation is in how our supply chains have been and how our teams are structured. Typically, your lead times for any form of product is in the apparel space is about 180 days. Our lead times are about 20 days, 15 days. We can go to market in even 5 days if needed. So, setting up these systems using tech and data are very heavy and flow through all departments. That's something that we've changed, because if if I have to say this in a very simpler way, look, there are so many people doing in our space, in the consumer space, with so much capital. If you do not innovate and if you do not do something in a smarter way, you're not going to win. So for us to have grown the way we've grown, we had to do something different.
Thank you very much. I think it's really great that you picked on things like design and pricing, and the examples you gave were great. Tech and data has definitely become more and more important. So, how has, by focusing on these areas like design, marketing, your supply chain, team structure, and pricing, how have these areas impacted the brand's relationship with the customer, and how did this impact the brand's sort of management of the pandemic when it hit the world last year?
Right. I think I'm going to take the second part of the question first, because that will help me explain all those points. Last year was extremely devastating for most founders, right? All of a sudden your cash flows have just stopped, and you don't even know, there's no clarity on how the world's going to pan out. Forget your business, but the world. um, it almost seems like you have to shut down your business, and that's where we could leverage on. Our first leverage is how strong the culture at the store is. We're really proud of it. Every single department head, juniors, seniors, they know exactly what their mission is. They know what the goal is. So even if we had to start working from home, we were never scared that, okay, will people actually work? Will they be motivated? We knew that we were all going to be aligned. I think that was the major differentiator between how most other brands did and how we came out. Other things that we could leverage is that we had built a cult like customer base. We have a very loyal customer base. It's because, as I said, we have the right designs, we speak the right language, we are very relatable and likable to these customers. So when we could start selling, these customers, and when that demand was there, they knew we were the first brand they could go to, right? um, the tech and data part, this is a little different from, it's just not pandemic specific, but it's, even if we launch, let's say, a simple white t-shirt like the one I'm wearing, the moment we launch it, the clicks, the views to conversions, everything is tracked. What's the current inventory? What will be forecast views? What will be the forecast conversions because of this view? When will it be stocked out? Is it going to be stocked out? Should we prioritize this in our manufacturing? And all of this is like, these flow through real systems through our manufacturer. So even the guy stitching has a screen in front of him, and he knows exactly which ones to take first, what is not important right now, what to do today. Um, this has always made sure that we have the right product at the right time. It's been a hurdle for, in fact, the consumer space. Uh, Stuff is sold out, and what's not sold out is really not wanted. And that's what we've changed. We don't have dead inventory, so we don't have to do as many sales as what people do. That's what keeps our branding intact. And that's also what keeps our unit economics intact, because then we can start to fund better marketing, better products. We can give a better quality to the customer because we don't have to sell for a cheaper price. So I think growth and innovation, if I have to sum it up, is the has to be a differentiator. You have to have built an organization that focuses on these two aspects, and that's the only way to like come out of the clutter.
Thanks for that. And just to go a little further, so obviously technology plays a huge role in the soul store success. So, how does the soul store go about in terms of understanding what technology is best for it, and also is this technology built in house, or does the soul store depend on third party tech providers? Just a little bit of detail or ideas around that would be great.
I'm not going to get too technical here for the general, because if I start speaking, it like it gets. We have a we have Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, we have a CTO basically who runs the whole show. Yes, we have an in-house tech team of about 10 to 15 people, but at the same time, we also leverage third-party companies, because sometimes there are some specializations that you may not have in-house. So when we were developing our in-house ERPs, we had leveraged some third-party. When we were developing the app for certain modules of the app, I think tech is it's firstly hygiene at this point. If you do not have a good UI, you don't have good UX, your consumer experience is not good, I, your business is not going to do well. And I can't tell you, even there's so many big companies that fail at this even today. I ordered some, I keep testing and poking. So I ordered a product on website X, for example, and the product didn't. There was no reply. The product didn't come for 15 days. Then it came. Then I got a message saying your product's coming. Then I got a second. I got it a second time, and so those are very important learnings. That okay, firstly, this is just basic hygiene. If you people think that all this is easy and it should be done, but if you don't pay attention to it, a lot of your systems are just going to break, because the real world is way more complicated with a lot more ifs and buts than what you really imagine. So you have to be very you have to have very strong basic systems to take care of this. But we also leverage tech to start understanding our business better, right? I spoke some of that conversion and things of that, and how we flow it into manufacturing, which is usually not a tech oriented place. Usually, like if we see our traditional, even the big manufacturers, they do everything on pen and paper. And I think that's a problem. We use tech to start giving better experiences to consumer. How what their preferences are should come up first. For like for example, for you, maybe there would be your favorite color would probably come up. For me, it would be mine. So all of this data is being collected and being brought back to give you a better service. I think if you do not do this in today's world, it's not even an advantage. I think it's just the basic, from the way we see it, because you want to be in company of the best, right? Like you want to compare yourself, and I think the best are all doing something of this nature, and you should be doing it too.
That's a lot of good advice and food for thought and ideas that I'm sure many brands could appreciate and even apply. And just in terms of, so while going through this process of implementing and incorporating tech, I'm sure the source may have faced some challenges. Could you tell us a little bit about what those challenges may have been and how the team overcame those challenges around incorporating and implementing technology for growth and for scaling online?
I'm gonna segue a little here because you spoke about challenges. Uh, there's not a day that goes without a challenge. Let me just tell you that every single day has a different kind of challenge. Even if it's a good thing, it's a challenge. Usually, there are many bad challenges as well. What's most important when you're dealing with these challenges is the attitude you have towards it. And I think that's actually what sets a lot of successful companies apart from the non-successful. Is this It's how does your team deal with challenges. Tech, just like most other departments, has its own challenges as well. I'm not saying everything is perfect. We do make mistakes. We have just last week our website was down for 10 minutes, and that's a big deal for us, right? It's bad service. Now it's very important that okay, mistakes are going to happen. How do you deal with it? What is the process to make sure you figure out what issue happened? What are your next steps to make sure it doesn't happen again? um, are you going to stress test it? Are you going to try and find your own bugs? A lot of people don't do this. Like, they don't want to check what mistakes can happen because it's easier emotionally as well as like effort wise, right? So that's something that's some of the like mental aspects of it. From a technical aspect, yes, there have been tons of challenges, especially when tech is, I think, the way when you see tech, right, it's not just, people don't understand, it's a lot of different modules coming together. These are a lot of, it's like the body, there's like one system, like there's the heart and there's the lung, and anything can fail and then your website will go down or some aspect of it will not work, right? Your database, your DB may not come, it may not scale up at the right time, whatever it be. The- and I don't want to get into specific examples because I think we face all the problems. Like, it's not like we've not had problems, it's just about how you learn from them. You're listening to what your consumers are complaining about, and you're taking the right steps. I think it's an attitude that should flow not just with tech but throughout your organization.
Thanks for that. And I'm just going to keep us on this topic for a little bit and talk about tech in marketing, because some of our audience is they're from marketing teams. So how does the Soul Store incorporate technology in its marketing? How has technology played a role in that, particularly in terms of identifying what to market to customers, when to market to them, what they're looking for, how the messaging should be? If there's anything related to that in terms of examples that you can share with us, that would be wonderful.
I'm actually thinking of how people think tech is not related to marketing. So, like, for me, if I have to speak how tech is related to marketing, is just speaking about marketing. Uh, Look, I'm gonna start a little philosophical. Every human being, okay, is their own little unique snowflake. So you can't use a one strategy for all, otherwise that's gonna fail. That's actually where technology allows you to start being more specific to different people based on their behavior, on their buying patterns, and things of that nature. So we have a lot of segmentations in our customers. Uh, are they Harry Potter fans? Male, female, age, demographic, locations, everything, right? All of this is slice and dice. Like, whether they are our loyalty members, not our loyalty members, what is the value which they would buy at versus not buying at. um, Cohorts is something we track. Really, like, cohorts is how often customers repeat. That's something we track because eventually we know that to have a successful business you have to have repeat customers. You can't keep acquiring customers. That's an endless, I mean, you don't want to go down that route. That's tiresome. So at the end of the day, we use this tech to try and figure out, okay, fine, this person has bought, let's say, a Batman t-shirt. Would they like to see more Batman? Okay, in the past we've seen that once they bought one Batman t-shirt, they're done. They don't want more. They usually then want something like a pant, or they want like a plain white t-shirt because they already have a dark t-shirt. So I'm giving you an example. So we try and pick all those different trends and nuances, and then we use that to try and speak back to the customer. And I think using tech, you can, if a customer goes down a certain journey, goes all the way to the payment page, doesn't purchase, right, then we can send a message saying, hey, you did not, was there an issue? If they still don't purchase, you can probably send a second reminder, and you can, using technology, you can set the durations of these reminders. What you can also do is you can start making sure that at the end of the day, you A/B test everything you're doing. So there's no, like, you should never have conviction. Let the data give you conviction. Never come in with preconceived notions. So in case you think that, okay, I'm going to market this to this customer, do an A/B test. Market two things to a different set. See which one works. Why it didn't work. What could you do better? This is a very broad question, and I can keep on speaking about it. So I'll just take a pause here.
No, that was great. That was absolutely great, and I think a lot. Some of our Q&A questions are related to this as well. So I will move on to the next area that we'd like to discuss, which is when it comes to keeping up with and dealing with changes that are taking place in the fashion and the retail industry, particularly online. What advice do you have for other brands or other e-commerce teams? And you can draw examples from how the Soul Store managed the pandemic last year as well. But any advice that you have for e-com teams in terms of dealing with these rapid changes, that would be great.
So I think instead of saying how to deal with it, I think the way we should think about it is structure your teams to be agile in the first place. So the way the team structures are there, the way instructions go, the way processes are, they should always be ready to be adaptable and changeable. So I think when you start doing pandemic or no pandemic, the world itself is very fast paced. So if there was a shock, if there was a negative shock, tomorrow there could be a new trend in your business which you are not ready to take advantage of. So change is something you should put into your processes itself. Like it should be very flexible, and there should not be enough. What a lot of these old companies, like these larger companies, do, there's a lot of red tape to try and do anything innovative. That's something that you should not have in your systems. And by your systems, I mean everything from your do's and don'ts, which you tell your team, your rules, your whatever it is, right? It's your culture. And at the same time, even your tech and your operations should be flexible. From a pandemic perspective, if I have to give one example, right, here's how we could leverage flexibility of our system. We knew that people were staying at home and we never did. I'm going to say it's a very petty example, but we never did shorts. And that was the need of the hour. We knew that Myntra, Amazon, all these big guys are running out of shorts. So within a week, from mind it, to concept to design to manufacture to selling, it took 1 week. In 7 days, it was there to there. And that's not something that was a lot of effort. Obviously, there was some effort to it, but it wasn't something groundbreaking for us because we're used to making sure that we are flexible at any point, you know.
I think that's a great advice, and agility is key. So just to move forward in terms of where you see the industry headed in terms of trends, how is the Soul Store preparing to cater to new consumers like Gen Z or the future consumer of e-commerce? What future fashion or retail trends is the brand excited about? Of a brand like the Soul Store that does send fan merchandise, is there a difference? Are you seeing a difference in the future, or is it going to be pretty much the same slow changes? How do you see it?
That's a good one. So here's how we see that. All right, this is what we know. There are definitely trends are there and they will always be changing. We think the next trends in casual wear are in these three specific categories which we don't do as much right now. One is loungewear, which is like your pajamas and sort, which we just launched. We think innerwear is very important because now some of these like quirky things that people are staying at home and they would want. And but more importantly, I think the major change we see is athleisure. We think athleisure is a very big market that is coming into India specifically. um, the large international brands that have it are very expensive, 5 to 6 thousand rupees. The consumer can't afford that. So that's a trend that we would pick up on and we would try and double down on. We've already started with our joggers, we started with the pajamas, we started with our boxers. So we started getting down these three. We think the Gen Zs that you speak about and the millennials, they're less towards formal wear, more towards like what we speak, right? People now wear like sneakers with suits, for example. So we know that casual wear is in fact going to be part of your mainstream fashion. Having said all of this, I'm going to go back to my own point. Now, this is what we plan for the next, say, 3, 5 years. But we also don't have the arrogance of thinking that this is exactly how it's going to go. So we have this plan, we're going to go with it. But at any point we see that a trend is changing or there's something else which we haven't thought of that everyone wants, you have to be adaptable to it and you have to be able to be first to market. A very, as soon as a trend is there, you should be there or right before it. And that is something that we actually look out for and build. We're constantly listening to what customers have. There's actually like there's a suggestion bank that gets built at the end of every week and month. Like, so suggestions from your comments on Instagram and Facebook, suggestions from your emails, all of this is collated into one bank. Our systems are just set like that. There is a process for it. And then we know, okay, there's a lot of people asking for Dragon Ball Z, so we should do Dragon Ball Z. That's actually why we launched also Dragon Ball Z last, I think, a month or two ago, because it was the top suggestion, or one of the top suggestions, for 4 months straight, and it did really well. So being able to listen to this data and then taking action, that's what I think is going to be the crux of it in the future.
I love the idea of a suggestion bank, and I hope our listeners picked up on quite a few of the ideas that you just mentioned. So it sounds like there are a lot of interesting things that are taking place in the industry. And so we're just segueing into the last one or two questions of our discussion. So how do you keep up with these changes as a leader? And how do you ensure your organization and teams keep up with these changes? And perhaps pick on a couple of ideas that go beyond removing red tape. So I know we touched on a few of those earlier, but is there anything else that you do as a leader and that you encourage or you ensure that your team does to keep up with these changes and to listen to the consumer?
These are very tough questions, but I'm going to try my best. Um, I think the way we look at it, right, and all our teams, is that you're not supposed to have one mind think of the business. If you have, we have like 250, 300 people, let's use 250 minds to think of the business, because if everyone's thinking of the business, you're going to have pretty solid teams, because they all are, it's not like the leader saying this is how it should be. I'm going to give you very basic examples. Our supply chain team, or every 2 weeks, that's twice a month, has something called their own version of Shark Tank, where everyone presents ideas that they should do. Brilliant, right? That's what the manager there thought would be. When it comes to design, it's not like if I like it on this, it's going to go that way. So if, let's say, if the designer says, well, this is our designs, and if I think, no, this is better if it's on blue, not on green, we very much put it out to for a anonymous vote on our internal channels. So you have about 100, 200 people actually giving their opinions. What changes would you like? So all of this is taken into consideration, and nobody's personal agenda comes into flow from a culture and a system point of view only. It's this, we're not built like that. And that's something that we made sure is how we went from the ground up. And that's something that takes a little bit of maturity. I'm not saying this happened from day one, but we realized that, okay, personal biases are coming into decision making, and eventually we all want the betterment. So nobody cares about their personal biases anyway. I don't care about my personal bias. I want to do what's best for the company and the consumer at the end of the day. So that's something that we do. We also have a lot of data around feedback. So every product after it's launched, about 20 to 30 customers are called, and there are like 5 or 6 basic questions which are asked. What do you think of the fabric? What do you think of the fit? What do you think of the design, color? And the last 2 questions I think are the most important. We ask both to our exclusive, that's our loyalty customers, and our non-loyalty customers, was it worth the money? I think that's because we never want a customer to feel cheated. So if they say no, we'll see if we can reduce the price. If we still can't, then this is not a product we should be doing. People do not think, they're not happy after buying it. So all of this data is when we start doing it. And it's never like, no, I think we should do that, we should do this. So that's, I think leadership is actually empowering. Since you spoke about that, it's not about telling people what to do, it's empowering people to do things. And that's what we look at it.
Thank you. I think you answered that brilliantly. And that actually brings us to the end of our discussion. Thank you so much. You've given us some great advice and insight into the online fashion and retail industry, and also some great food for thought in terms of where the industry is headed. So I hope that our audience enjoyed the webinar and learned something valuable. and something that they can even apply to their brands today. So now we can move on to our question and answer session, because I think there are a whole bunch of questions that have come in. So I hope you're ready to answer them. So over to you, Preetima, to take care of the question and answer session.
Sure. So I think that was a very interesting discussion, what you highlighted, Vedang. And we've got lots of questions. We'll try to take as many as possible. So the first one is, what advice do you have for online brands with no physical presence? How can these brands differentiate themselves from brands that have brick and mortar stores?
I think so. Firstly, we also were an online presence, and our first store came after 6 years, which is just about a year and a half ago for us. Um, how do you differentiate yourself? If you're asking that, that's not correct. You should know what is your differentiator, so that, because if you are not aware of what it is, how are you going to tell the consumer? That's first. That's my main advice. And the second way is, how do you amplify yourself? I think that's a question. How do you get eyeballs, and how do you get consumers to trust you? The way we did it is, we started tying up with people who are bigger than us. For example, when we started off, we tied up with musicians like Nuclear, comedians like Kenny Sebastian, AIB was also there at that time. So I think and we used to sell their merchandise. So what we did is essentially use them as our megaphones and our endorsers, to say these guys are awesome, go buy my merchandise from there. But what they're also saying is, they probably have good quality as well, they probably are trusted as well. So that's what we did.
Sure. So the next question is, did you change your marketing strategy during this pandemic?
Yeah, I think I lost you there, but I think you said, did you change your marketing strategy during the pandemic? Absolutely.
Correct.
um, you should change your marketing strategy during any change. Can't do the same thing, right? You can't use the same tool for a different operation. Yes, we did. What we started pushing is how comfortable our products would be versus how good they look, because all of a sudden the use case was different, right? So we also changed our category mix to go in that direction. As I mentioned, we started selling shorts, for example, because cotton shorts would be needed to staying at home. Who wants to wear formal pants? So that's something that we do. And then we started speaking about how comfortable our products are, how good the material is, how right now it's summer, so how cool you'll feel, and how breathable the fabric is. You won't say how breathable your fabric is during the winter, right? So you change it, obviously, for anything.
Sure. The next one is online business model successful, and does it offer good ROI?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I do. We're quite successful. We've grown. Yeah, we more than double, triple profitably every year. I think, let me tell you the advantage of being online. I'm assuming everyone's from India, so they get it. You can't target a tier 2 city in Nagaland offline. How are you going to reach so many places, right? It's online. And what's more important is, you can specifically go to that consumer who's looking for the unique proposition that you have. For example, if you have an offline store and it's situated in some very important place, let's say at Churchgate in Bombay, in Mumbai, out of 1,000 people that will pass by, maybe one or two will understand what you are about. I'm sorry, did you lose me out there? I think my
No,
internet.
we heard you. We heard you.
Yeah. But online, you can specifically target exactly the customers who are looking for what you want, right? Like, for example, for us, we can pick out every Harry Potter fan. But if we are Churchgate, out of 1,000 people, maybe five will be a Harry Potter fan. So I think there's so many advantages of being online. The ability to scale can also be leveraged online, which offline is just you can't do it without, unless you have a lot of cash. Online, you can do it. You can start small, go big.
Sure. So what should traditional fashion brands keep in mind when they are going digital?
All I
What
can
should they do first?
that's these are so broad and generic questions. I think I'm going to pick just one of the issues. I feel like that products feel, quality, look doesn't come very easily through screen. So paying attention to how your product, and just not, oh, he or she said fashion, but any product, right? How it looks, that giving that comfort that this is going to be worth it. I think that's something that people should pay attention to, and that's one of the advices I would give. I can go on and on for this question actually.
Hmm. Okay, according to you, how bright is the future of D2C strategy in India?
Oh,
How bright is direct to consumer strategy in India?
I think D2C is the way to go right now, right? Because what's happening is D2C allows you to, especially since it's online, allows you to create a product with a unique proposition and then sell those to the people looking for unique proposition. So, and now the consumers even more educated and knows exactly what they want. People's demands have gone up. Like, no, I don't want a shampoo. I want that shampoo which has this and needs that and needs this. And that's the advantage that D2C has, that I think these demands have now come and you can now service it. Very bright. I mean, generic products don't work anymore.
What platform do you use for your data analytics? And since you also spoke about technology, how do you use technology in the way you analyze your data?
So I think we use multiple platforms. I think that's how much we are into data. Like when we start connecting them via, there are many, I don't want to start promoting anyone, but there are many. You need to use something that firstly gets you data. So like what is going to track the hits, and also you can start with something basic like Google Analytics and go into more professional ones, which you'll have many of them. And next is, how do you start crunching and getting output of these datas? How do you merge your uh, say your Facebook and Instagram data along with your sales data, along with this visits data? And that's something that I think a simple Google search will work, because there are tons of options. We use some of them, and but the most important thing is to start. Unless you have a big team, you're not going to be able to do it in this much detail. But start small, right? Start with just Google Analytics and start with your basic sales, and use an Excel sheet if you want to use. Then you can go into like something free like Google Data Studio. Then you can build up to some of these paid versions like CleverTap, Salesforce, Apps Flyer. I can keep going on and on about those.
Sure. So, what is the best way to drive sales on your website, and what are the marketing strategies your brand uses?
Okay, I'm gonna firstly tell anyone this. In any consumer brand, it's about the marketing. If you take a P&L, right, you, your competitor, and the competitor's competitor, the cost of product, sale, rent, it's all going to be more or less the same. No one's going to have a competitive advantage there. The difference in that P&L is going to be the marketing, very clearly. And that's how you're going to be able to either sell your products for more or less, and how you do it. So we know the importance of it. I think the way people see marketing is they get a product and they're like, how do I sell this in a very desperate way? I think it gets much easier if you have the right product. Data again helps there. And when you have the right product and you know who the right consumer is, then that marketing strategy is very easy. I'll give you a simpler example of this. I don't know. What am okay, Harry Potter, right? I don't know convince anyone that buy Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling already did that. Now I just have to find the people who like Harry Potter and say, hey, this is available. If you're understanding what I'm trying to say. I think that's a marketing strategy which is less pushy, always is better, because there are enough of people screaming. So be different by being for a, like targeting the right consumer or the right product.
So, related question is that you have a very strong social media presence. How did you build that?
Oh, and we don't do memes and we don't do any of that. It's about, again, it's about creating a community. They know exactly what they will get when they follow us. There are all these products, and we do try and we do back social causes as well. So there is a tone that our brand has. There's a sense of consistency, and when you have this consistency, then there aren't different personalities speaking, right? It's like one personality that the brand builds, and that's what gets you this loyalty and eventually this social presence. Also, if you have fun products, people share it, so that happens as well, and that's an advantage that we have because we have so many pop culture uh, affiliations, and we can always leverage that. That's actually how we even plan to stay relevant, because tomorrow there's another hit show. We'll be doing the merchandising of that. We'll tap with them. So the aim is to always be relevant through this journey.
Right. These days, many brands are going on betting on personalization, and that's what the customers demand. So, what are your thoughts on that, and how do you personalize your clothes and other things?
I think I'm going to say something very controversial here. Um, I hate personalized products. I like products which appeal to a set category of customers. What I mean by, I'm going to say this in a different way. Personalized products, extremely bad, because if we make one white t-shirt, we can sell it 1,000 people. But if I have to make a specific white, specific blue, then you have to make 1,000 products for 1,000 people versus one product for 1,000 people. I do not think personalization is a scalable model. But what I'm trying to say is, don't make products which are generic. Also find that those products which don't make a product which a lot of people will like. Make a product which some people will love, and that's the differentiator. So I hope I'm clear here in what I'm trying to say. It's about making niches, finding niches, but it's not. Personalization is something that I don't think is scalable, and it's quite tedious. You're on mute.
Preetima, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that. So do you use artificial intelligence, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think the word artificial intelligence is used very loosely. Um, yes, there's a lot of data driving that we do, and there's a lot of machine learning that is implemented. What I mean by what machine learning or artificial intelligence, how we do, is that you use technology to start seeing patterns versus you manually getting answers and then trying to see it yourself. We don't really use it that in depth right now. It's something that we are building on, because at the same time, I mean, different challenges and different problems have to be taken at different scale, and your solutions would always be different. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are very important, but maybe not today for us. Or we, but we know it's important now in the next step of thing. So we will start using it.
Sure. And we're going to take this last question. Because we have a lot many of them, we will ensure that we send all the questions to Alavi and you, and we'll try and address it at a later stage, maybe. So the
Sure.
last question to you, Vedang, is how do you reduce RTOs? RTOs have been a huge challenge for us.
Hmm. It used to be a challenge. I think we more than, yeah, we've made our RTOs like about 1/5 of what they used to be. Two, three ways of doing this. Firstly, there's now I'm again going to bring data into it. If a customer has RTO'd once and RTO'd second time and they've not really purchased, then they get flagged on our system. So the third time there's going to be a call that goes out. Then we've done a lot of A/B testing, just COD and prepaid. Okay, if these are the two payment options, no charge. let's give a discount for prepaid and no charge for COD. Let's give no discount for prepaid and a charge for COD. We've actually done all this A/B testing. What should be the charge? 0, 25, 50. If you make a COD charge as 100, people will drop off because if they want COD only, they're not going to pay that 100. Some people, but we saw that 25, there's no resistance to it, but people don't order for the heck of it. So we've done all of these different tests. We've in that way we made our prepaid orders, which used to be about 35-40%, go to about 65%. That helps in reducing your RTOs. We have a very strong NDR, that is a team which is there. uh, NDR is your non-delivery report, and then our team follows up with why it didn't happen. Was it the RTOs can happen either the customer says no or the delivery boy just doesn't attempt, and the second is usually higher than the first. So then we follow up. Which one was it? We call the customer. Was there an attempt? If not, why didn't he call you? Then we tell the regional manager. So we have all this set up, and that's it's a little elaborate. You can go step by step in what system to take, but and there are even more elaborate ways you can go. But the aim is to start with these steps, and the way to start with these steps is to look at data.
Sure, great. So I think, I mean, this has been a fantastic session. It was really great to have you with us, Vedang. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be sending you a lot of questions after that, and we hope you'll be able to help our attendees here. Thank you all the delegates for joining us here. We hope to see you in the near future, hopefully offline and not in the confines of our houses. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay indoors, everyone. Let's fight this virus together. We
Thank
would
you.
also request our delegates to please fill the short survey for us to get some relevant feedback on this webinar. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Vedang. Thank you, Anishka.
Thank you very much.